Hello video students. This is an online tutorial that will guide you through all the requirements for the online exercise, which is due on Monday, February the 8th. First, an overview. In this exercise, you will be introduced to saving a second copy of your project, creating intro titles for your first project movie, applying visual effects to clips in your movie, and exporting your movie. Now, the requirements for the movie itself is that it has to be 20 seconds long or longer. It has to have an introductory title stating your name and online exercise. The movie has to have a clip that plays backwards. The movie also has to have a clip that manipulates time, which means it either noticeably goes slower or faster than normal. It also has to apply 3 effects from the effects panel. And finally, your movie has to be exported to your assignment 1 folder and needs to be labeled your name, online exercise. For example, mine would be Jay Bordage and then online exercise. For you to complete this exercise, your assignment 1 project, by the time you start this process, has to meet the following criteria. 1, it has to be 20 seconds long or longer. 2, it needs to have at least 5 clips in the timeline for you to do what needs to be done. So make sure that those 2 things are met before you start. Now please follow the following steps outlined to complete the exercise. Step 1. Saving a copy of your project. The reason for making a copy is to protect what you've been working on up to this point. You can make all the special effects changes required for this exercise to the second version and it will not affect your original movie. Should you prefer your movie with the special effects treatment, and I hope some of you will, you can continue to work on this copy to create your final movie. Creating multiple copies is a great habit to get into. It allows you to experiment without the fear of losing or ruining what you have accomplished thus far. So, first step is open your Premiere project. So I'm going to go to my Finder window. I'm going to go to Documents, Jay Bordage, it's assignment 1, and here's my project that I've been working on, my assignment 1. Double click. Okay, my project has opened. Now I'm going to save a copy of this project. And in order to do that, I have to make sure my timeline is clicked. If you'll notice, my timeline is clicked because you can see the yellow border around it. If it's somewhere else, you won't have that option, but just use your selection tool, which is the arrow tool, and select the timeline, and now you should be able to save a copy. The way you do that is to go to File, Save As, rather than Save, and you will get the Save As dialog box. Now I'm going to save this project. The first thing I need to do is rename it. So I'm going to rename it Jay Bordage Online Exercise. The second thing I need to do is make sure that it's stored in the right place. And I'm looking at the place. It's now says assignment 1, and I'm going to store it in my assignment 1 folder along with my other original project. And I hit save. Now I will show you how to make an intro title. Movies have titles that introduce the movie and have end credits, and yours will be no different. It's pretty easy to do, and here's how. First, remember, if you make a mistake, you can undo what you did by holding down the Command key and hitting the Z key. So I can move stuff around, make certain mistakes. Move that there, I move this here, maybe move this out, and then it turns out, oh my god, I really didn't, I want to go back. If I hold down the Command key and hit the Z key, it will back up until it's in the original location. So if that happens when you're doing this part of the process, don't worry, you can always go back. Chances are your movie starts at the beginning of the timeline. If I drag my playhead to the beginning of the timeline, we'll see right here, you'll see where the clips are, and the movie starts there. You'll need to move these clips out of the way to make room for the title. With the selection tool, and the selection tool is the arrow that you see bouncing around in the timeline, I want you to drag the playhead by clicking on that blue ball above the playhead and bringing it out to about 2 seconds. Remember, you'll be able to tell where 2 seconds are by looking at the yellow numbers on the top left-hand side of the timeline. So I'm moving it about 2 seconds and 5 frames. That's fine. Now, from the Edit pull-down window, I'm going to choose Edit, Select All. Now watch what happens to all the clips. Once I've hit select all the clips become darker, and that means all the clips have been selected. If you don't have select all as a choice, again, it's probably because you drifted out of the timeline. Simply use the selection tool to click on the timeline. You'll be able to tell it's selected by the yellow bounding box, and then go back and hit Edit, Select All, and you should select all. Now with everything selected, I can click anywhere on the clips themselves, and I'm going to click and drag them out till they're where the playhead is. The reason why I had you move the playhead is I want everything to start about 2 seconds out. Now we're ready to make a title. To do that, you go to the Title pull-down menu and hit Title, New Title, Default Still. I click on that and I get the new title dialog box. I'm just going to call that Title Intro, and I'm going to click OK. At this point, I have the new title dialog box, and I have some imagery that's there as well. The reason why there's imagery there is the playhead is right now at the beginning of the movie. I'm going to drag the playhead to the beginning of the timeline. Notice there's no movie there. I'm going to have a nice black screen to work from. Alright, with the black screen, I'm going to click on the type tool, and I'm going to click in this box. This box is basically the movie box, and I'm going to click here, and I'm going to put on line exercise. I'm going to put my name. Alright. Now I can change the size of this. Notice that there are these white bounding boxes. You want to keep the title within the inner white bounding box. Clearly my title right now is too big. The way to change the title in the easiest way is I go up and actually pick the selection tool, which is located for this dialog box right here. I click on it. That allows me, if I click inside, I can move it around to where I want. If I'm clicking inside the box, if I click on a corner of the box, I can actually shrink things down if I want, so it fits within those bounding box. Okay, so at that point where everything is neat and where I want it to be, I can click on this red button to close this dialog box. Now notice what has happened. If I look in the project panel, I notice that there is a new asset, and that asset is the title I just made. It's the asset called Intro. I can take that asset, I click on it, and I can just drag it right onto the timeline. Now I'm going to use the slider tool to zoom in and show you what's happened. Okay, so I have this title, but notice it doesn't go all the way. The default is 1 second and I've made it 2. To make it long enough so that it runs into the movie, I'm going to take my selection tool, I'm going to go to the edge, and I'm just going to drag it out. And now I have my intro title. Now if I hit the space bar, I can play it, 2 seconds of intro, and then my movie starts. Alright, now I'm going to talk about applying effects. The three categories I'll talk about is backward motion, changing speed, and using special effects from the effects panel. Now, backward motion is relatively easy to do. I'm going to scroll over to this moment right here. I'm going to turn off the sound because we don't need that. And it's simply somebody playing baseball. So the way that I would make that action run backwards is I click on the clip itself, and this is true of everything. You need to identify the clip you want to change. Once I hit that clip, I'm going to go over to Clip. Again, notice I don't have anything under Clip. That's because right now the source window is selected. I have to go back to the timeline, make sure that's selected, select the clip I want, and now notice I have a lot more at my disposal. I go down to Speed/Duration, and all I need to do is click on this box, which is Reverse Speed, which is essentially making everything go backwards. I click Reverse Speed, I click OK, and now, watch. The action is now backwards. Okay, the second thing I want to do is to change speed, and you can actually change speed in the same way that I showed you how to move things backwards. But I find that the tool that's easiest to use for this is located in the toolbar, and it's called the Rate Stretch tool. I click on but before I click on the Rate Stretch tool, I want to say that changing the speed of a clip changes its length. If I want to change something in the middle of my movie, I'm going to need to move it out of the way because it'll run into some other clips. I'm going to be changing the speed of this clip right here. It's right in the middle of the movie. I'm going to slow it down. This is the regular speed, and I'm going to make it slower. But if I make it slower, that means the clip's going to be longer, and right now it's going to run into the clip right next to it, so I can't do that. I'm going to have to open up another track for video. Right now video 1 is open, video 2 is closed. I can open it by hitting this little rectangle, this little triangle, and I can drag this clip up. Now I can move over to the Rate Stretch tool, and I drag it to either end. It doesn't work in the middle, but if I go to either end, I can make it longer. And what making it longer does is it goes from a normal rate movie to a much slower movie. And of course, I could do the opposite. I could actually make it much quicker. See? But I'm going to choose to make it slower. Now, needless to say, everything underneath has been displaced. So if I want to see the rest of the movie, I'm going to have to select those clips. And the way I do that, because they're specific clips, is I'm going to take my selection tool. I'm going to click somewhere outside of the movie clips that I want to select. I'm going to click and drag, and notice I've selected just those clips. Everything else is light, but those clips that are selected are dark, and I can move them over. Alright, so that is how to change speed. The last thing I want to show you how to do is how to use the effects in the effects panel. Now the effects panel is the third tab, there's 1, 2, 3, the third tab in this area on the lower left hand side of the workspace. And where we're going to be going is video effects, and notice each of the video effects, under video effects there are folders, and the folders are full of effects themselves. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to go to the Distort folder, and I'm going to scroll by, and I'm going to choose this effect called Turbulent Displace. Now the way to apply effect to a specific clip is to click on the effect and drag it to the clip you want to change, and then release. Now notice what happened the minute I did that is that the video distorted through this turbulent displace. Now each effect can be controlled individually, and the way that you do that is if you go to the source window and click on the second tab called Effects Controls, provided your playhead is over the clip that you're using, you have, first of all, notice that turbulent displace is listed as being one of the effects that is affecting this clip. Now you can change certain things, and for each one it's different, and so I would encourage experimentation. I'm just going to go over a mount. Once I have the hand visible, I can click and drag either right or left to change the amount of distortion that I'm creating. Okay, there's another one I would like to show you, and I'll show it over here. And this is not under Distort, although Distort has many interesting special effects that could be appropriate, and I would suggest experimenting with a number of them. Remember, you have to use 3. I'm going to close that window for a second, and I'm just going to go down to time for a second. And there's something called echo. And I'm going to take echo, the echo effect. I'm going to again put it on the clip I want to affect. And right now, if I play this, there's not very much change. But I can take this echo and I can really distort it. And what echo does is it makes a copy of itself and plays them so they're a little bit off. So there are 2 copies playing simultaneously. So watch how that works. So now you have this weird echo. And that can look hallucinogenic, I would imagine. So, and you can play with that. So there are a number of other effects. Again, I would encourage you to experiment. The last step in the process for this online exercise is to export the movie. Exporting means changing a movie from something that can only be seen in Premiere to something that can be played on many other devices or projected. It becomes a much more usable movie. When you're done with the title and the effects, go to File, Export, Export Media. And you will have the Export Settings dialog box, and it's divided roughly in half. One half has the movie, and there's this timeline on the bottom which is going to be important to us. The other half has the settings that we need to change. Now normally when you export a movie you'll want to export the whole thing, but you've been working on a movie for a while and chances are your movie itself was longer than 20 seconds. You only need to export 20 seconds of movie for this exercise. You can export more than that if you want to, but 20 seconds is all you need. If you'll notice at the bottom here, you'll see that this movie is 42 seconds and 12 frames. Again, the second 2 numbers denote seconds, and the last 2 numbers denote frames. So this is the playhead, and this is kind of a mini timeline. So I can scrub the playhead and watch what's happening in the entire movie. Now I'm going to change this to roughly a 20-second movie, and the way I'm going to do that is through these little triangles on either side of this timeline. I'm going to grab the triangle that's toward the right-hand side or towards the end, and I'm going to drag it until the yellow numbers read roughly 20 seconds. Okay, 20 seconds is roughly there. I'm going to let go. Notice at this point it changes back to 0. That's because when I'm moving the arrow, this meter marks how long the movie is, but the minute I let go, it tells me where the playhead is located. But that's okay, because once I let go, the white numbers on the right tell me how long the movie is. So I've made the movie as long as I need to. Now, there are three more things I need to change. One is format, preset, and output name. For format, I would like you to change it to H.264. For preset, I would like you to scroll down until you hit YouTube Widescreen HD. And lastly, output name. I would like you to click on the output name. This does a couple things. One, it allows you to name the movie, and two, it allows you to place the movie where it needs to be placed. So I'm going to rename the movie Jbordage underscore online exercise. And then I have to find my original assignment 1 folder, which is where it needs to be placed. So I'm going to go to Documents, Jbordage, Assignment 1, and that's where it's going to reside. I hit Save. I'm almost done. The last thing I need to do is hit Export. Once I hit Export, it starts creating the movie. This is telling me how long it should take, and it's in seconds. It's right now at 15%. So this often takes a little bit of time. Once the movie is done, it should show up in your Assignment 1 folder as an MPEG-4 movie. Test your movie before showing it by clicking on it, and it should open up in QuickTime. That is all that's required for this online exercise. I hope you have a good time.